Hello and welcome to All the Way Down, a YouTube channel all about the Scottish rock band Biffy Clyro.
All the way down.
So this year Biffy Clyro headlined the Download Festival for the second time. So before we get to this year's, let's have a look at the history of Download Festival and Biffy Clyro. So this year Biffy headlined Download Festival, the iconic rock and heavy metal annual festival in Donington, England. Although the word is not now considered a heavy metal term, back then in 2003, when it changed from the Monsters of Rock festival, the idea of downloading had more negative connotations. Right around the time when file sharing and ripping songs illegally, sorry Lars, off the internet became very popular. Plus, with the creation and rise of the World Wide Web and social media, it was heavy metal's chance to plunge into how audiences share and discuss music. I find Biffy's relationship with this festival particularly intriguing. First of all, they're not a heavy metal band, but have headlined on more than one occasion, despite a lot of unhappy online metalheads. Secondly, Biffy are only one of two bands that have graced the main stage at Download and V Festival, a festival that usually hosts bands such as Stereophonics and Coldplay. Is this an example of how Biffy can adapt to any audience? Or simply that they've just done exactly what they want and can pull in audiences of all kinds? Biffy took to the stage at this festival in 2022 for the 8th time. So let's have a look at each one as we do a deep dive into Biffy's relationship with the Download Festival. 2004. Finding video clips of each of these performances have been interesting for a few reasons. First of all, it's great to go back and find them. How they looked, how they sounded, what they played, how the crowd reacted. Secondly, it's telling just how much footage online there actually is, in parallel with their growth as a band and their appearances at other similar sized festivals. I simply can't find any footage of Biffy's set from 2004 at Download. It's nowhere to be seen. There is, however, a 4-part oddly quaint camcorder footage on YouTube that documents one festival goer's trip. I had fun skimming through it. There's no Biffy, but it's mostly footage of the main stage. Headliners Linkin Park and Metallica both feature, so Biffy miss out. It was unlikely anyway, considering they played the Bowl stage, and probably quite early on in the day too. As always, I depend on trusty setlist.fm to find their setlists, and if it's correct, it was shockingly short. Infinity Land would be released 4 months later, but only one song from that album features. There's no such thing as a Jaggy Snake. He's slotted into a fairly heavy Vertigo of Bliss setlist. 2005. A year later, and the band, with possibly a similar sized time slot, jumped up to the main stage at Download Festival. Looking at this poster, the Friday night headliner's Feeder really stuck out to me as an odd choice. Upon researching this year, I found out that Friday was actually dubbed an indie day, with Garbage and Dinosaur Jr. also playing on the main stage. Below them on the bill were Biffy Clyro. I can't imagine how the band would have reacted if they were told this though. I'm sure they were just happy to be given a chance to play to so many people. Infinity Land had been out for a while, but still only 2 songs appear in another relatively short set. Biffy's bump to the main stage came with some exposure though, with Nostalgia TV giving them a few seconds of airtime in the form of an interview and a short clip of them blasting out Just Boy. In the interview, Cy says there were no bottles of urine thrown at them whilst playing, which is good. As I said before, parallels can be made with other similar sized festivals than Biffy. In 2003, they played the main stage at Reading and Leeds Festival, and then 2 years later, played later on in the day on a smaller stage. This suited them better at the time, as the main stage seemed to swallow them up a bit in 2003. With the 2005 set, in a full tent, they went down a storm. This one is a bit more difficult to measure however, as the only footage I can find of their 2007 Download appearance is 26 seconds long and very blurry. Very typical of the Nokia phone gig videos taken around this time. You can just about make out the band members as a distorted Get Fuck Stud is belted out. Again, another 7-song setlist, 5 of them from Puzzle, which was released 5 days earlier. 2008. 12 short months later we really see the impact Puzzle had, with only 3 bands ahead of them on the Saturday main stage bill. They had main stage slots at Reading and Leeds as well as Tea in the Park in the same summer, and had variations on the same stage design, with 3 silver backdrops including the Biffy B logo and a mix of different lights attached to rectangular trussing. There's a healthier set time here too, with 12 songs spanning all albums apart from the Vertigo of Bliss. This appearance comes as a big chapter in Biffy's legacy. In an interview with NME at the festival, Cy comments that they have a brand new song they want to play called Mountains. This song is buried in the middle of the setlist and would be released as a single 2 months later, reaching number 5 in the UK single charts. 2012. Biffy's next download appearance came 4 years later. In that gap, Biffy toured the album Puzzle, released the single Mountains, released and toured Only Revolution's album, and were months away from dropping the Opposites album. They stuck with a Saturday main stage slot. A little bit later on in the night, they meet in a Tenacious D and Metallica sandwich. It's an interesting setlist here. 17 songs, opening with the hugely popular Mountains and ending with The Captain. In between are some odd choices. God and Satan, which I can only imagine was chosen to appease any heavy metal Satanists in the audience, Many of Horror, a song heavily affiliated with the X Factor, and halfway through the set they roll out Toys, 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 Choke, Toys, 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 a song from 2003 that they hardly ever play live. At this time, of course, they had their second live guitarist on hand, Mark Venart, to beef up their sound, and they really look like they've grown into their surroundings. There's more substantial set dressing too, with jagged mirrors hanging on front of a green, tree-lined backdrop. 2016. The festival broadened its horizons in 2016, creating a second download at the Longchamp Racecourse in Paris. Held on the same weekend as Donington, Biffy played the main stage before Korn. Since then, the festival has grown even further, turning up amps to 11 in Spain, Australia and Japan. Number 1 album Ellipsis would be released a month later, so 2 songs from this album appear. The rest of the 14 are all pretty much setlist mainstay and give a good idea of what the band are about. 2017. In a Kerrang interview earlier that year, Simon said, "I think some people think we might not be heavy enough. We like that. We excel in those situations." It's safe to say Biffy wasn't everyone's first choice as a download headliner. A regular at this festival is far used to the likes of Iron Maiden, Megadeth, or Slayer closing the evening on the main stage. By this point though, Biffy had become arena tour regulars and used to playing audiences of this size. This is a confident performance, based on numerous clips I've watched. The lighting effects, plumes of fire and fireworks all contributed to their first download headline slot. 57 is back in the download setlist after a decade of it going missing. Plus there's the beloved In the Name of the Wee Man, a track from the Ellipsis Deluxe edition that gets a run out. Elsewhere they're making no concessions for the heavy metalers in the crowd, with the more gentle Medicine and God and Satan in the setlist. But a Biffy performance that includes Sounds Like Balloons, Jaggy Snake and Biblical are okay with me. We see a bit of playfulness from the band too here, with little nods to co-headliners Aerosmith dotted around their set. Setlist.fm claims that renditions of Walk This Way and I Don't Want to Miss a Thing were attempted at some points. 2021. Sadly, Biffy's headline slot was never seen by anyone on this year. Thanks to the continuation of COVID-19 in the UK, the festival had to be cancelled, just like it did the year before. So there we are, that's a bit of a history of Biffy's relationship with the Download Festival, starting in 2004. All the way up to present year, 2022. The first time that they played on a Sunday, this year's lineup was Kiss on the Friday, Iron Maiden on Saturday, and Biffy headlining on the Sunday. Now I've written down, let me just find it, how many times they've played. Appearances, 8 times, and that's not discounting the 2021 festival that was cancelled due to COVID, but they played Friday once, Saturday 6 times, and Sunday the once, which was this year. Now, I was kind of following the Twitter sort of online social media platforms around the Download Festival a couple of weeks ago, and the reaction was very mixed. Of course, Biffy, not known, like I've said in the build up to this, not known to be a heavy metal band. I know a lot of heavy metal fans have kind of protested that they're not really suitable as a sort of a main headline act. The likes of Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, Kiss being more suitable. But I think they could have been a bit more strategic with placing them. They've played Saturday 6 times, maybe playing them earlier on in the weekend, so people actually stay for the whole festival. Maybe that would have been a wiser choice, but we don't know the real decision why it was made. It could be due to bands not making certain times. But I'm a huge Biffy Clyro fan. It doesn't matter where you put them. But the Twitter reaction early on was basically pictures of the size of the crowd early on in the set. Brez says, embarrassing again, the feckin' dug shit Biff on main stage. Place is emptying after Steel Panther blew the second stage away. Jack Stevenson said, booking Biffy on the Sunday almost guaranteed an insultingly small crowd. That sounds like it's a Biffy fan, but putting them on a Sunday night is maybe not doing them a bit of a disservice there. Will says, Biffy sound mega. Massive shame they had to follow Maiden and Kiss this weekend rather than headlining Friday. Headlining Friday may have been, a better option. The last headlined download in 2017 headlined the Saturday. That seemed to go all right. So that's kind of a separate issue, I think, of where they're placed. They are used to playing these big festival crowds now. They're used to headlining. They're doing arena tours for the last few years since the Ellipsis album, Opposites album maybe. So they can pull off a great show. We all know this. And like I said in the video, they are dynamic enough to play a headline set at V Festival, Reading and Leeds, download. That leads me on to nicely the set list. Very similar to the recent US tour that they've just done, that they had to sort of cancel. We'll get onto that in a sec. So the set list goes Dum Dum, Hunger in Your Haunt, Tiny Indoor Fireworks, Black Chandelier, North of No South, Golden Rule, Instant History, Mountains, Machines, Unknown Male 1, End of, Wolves of Winter, Space, Slurpy Slurpy, Biblical, which wasn't in the UK, the US set list, so I'm really glad to see that back. Living is a Problem, Bubbles, and then Encore with The Captain, Cop Syrup, and Many of Horror. I did see a clip of the opening song Dum Dum on Twitter, and I really don't think it's a gig opener, a set opener. Certainly not a download headline festival opener, especially when you've got End of, Wolves of Winter, Unknown Male, Mountains, which they have opened with before, download. The Captain, I mean, they've got so many amazingly big, heavy, here we are kind of songs. To start with Dum Dum, I think that was a bit of a misstep. There's a couple of songs in here as well which I would initially question, including Instant History. Tiny Indoor Fireworks may be a bit too poppy, but they still can rock it up. And again, they're making very little concessions to the audience they're playing to here. Machines, Space, which really delicate song, but still rolling it out for these big headline sets. The Enemy reviewed it very well. They were welcomed back with open arms, dynamic, confident and comfortable, a wonderful sense of surprise that no other headliner offered, which is brilliant because they were on the same bill as Iron Maiden, Kiss. So recording this video has timed quite well because last night the channel Sky Arts played a 3-hour highlights package of the festival, and I didn't have to wait too long for Biffy to appear. Korn were on it, A Day to Remember, who I was really impressed with, Wargasm, brilliant name, Iron Maiden, they were on first on the highlights package, but Biffy's set was sort of scattered amongst, there was only 3 songs if I remember rightly, Unknown Male 1, Instant History and Mountains. As soon as I saw Instant History in the set when I looked on Setlist FM, I did think, well, I'm not sure that works, it's quite a weak song. But last night when I was watching it, they chose to play Instant History as part of the highlights package. I was actually quite surprised with it. They really do rock it up. The set looked quite familiar in that it had sort of geometric shapes up the side and a sort of a plinth platform next to Ben so they could play alongside him rather than down further towards the crowd. So 3 songs that you saw as part of the highlights package, really good to see it in full colour and full sound rather than depending on Twitter. Mountains sounded absolutely huge. But one thing that did concern me is that in a couple of moments in the songs, particularly Unknown Male, where Sai usually sings Bury Your Head in the Sand All You Want, A Million Vibrations, blah blah blah, that wasn't sung by Cy at the time. It was sung by Ben and James. Now I do worry whether Cy's sort of thinking about his voice and not straining it too much. We know that the US tour was stopped early. A couple of their shows were cancelled. Maybe that's due to Cy, maybe because of his voice, and he's sort of protecting it a little bit here, because that moment in that song is really great, the way that Cy sings that. But you don't hear it in the Download set. But other than that, I thought it sounded great. 8 appearances at Download, headlining the Sunday night in 2022. And some stats along with the appearances of the certain days. The top 3 songs played at Download Festival. Golden Rule and Many of Horror is played 4 times. Mountains is played 5 times. And the most popular song of Download Festival with Biffy Clyro, played 6 times, is Living Is a Problem Because Everything Dies. So there we are, we're fully up to speed with Biffy's relationship with the Download Festival, starting in 2004 to now 2022. I do hope they play in further years. As I said before, they made no concessions to the audience that they're playing to with the set list choice. Very similar, as I said, to the recent US tour. They're in that kind of zone of playing these songs, and they sounded really tight. You can really tell that they've been on a recent tour. Early sort of reactions online was that they weren't getting the crowd that they deserved, or they weren't getting the crowd that a Sunday night usually gets. But I think there was enough moments in the set list to win round any heavy metal fan. I mean, just taking a glimpse at this set list again, you got Unknown Male 1, End Of and Wolves of Winter back to back. That must have sounded huge. Biblical was back, Slurpy Slurpy Sleep Sleep, Cop Syrup. You know, the kind of lightness and shade here is really vast, because you've got these really thunderous songs, but then at the same time, in the same set, Machines, Space, and the staples of any Biffy set list as well. Living As a Problem, Bubbles, Biblical, Golden Rule. Really, really good. A really, really good reflection of what the band are capable of doing. So that's my rundown of Biffy's time at Download Festival. 8 appearances so far. Hopefully there'll be a few more in there, and I'll see you on the next video.